Good morning everyone. Today is Tuesday and we're going to be carrying on looking at measuring length today. Okay, so we had a look yesterday at comparing lengths and heights together, and you can do a little bit more on that at the beginning of today's lesson, but the focus of today's lesson is to measure length with non-standard units. Now, a non-standard unit is very simple. That is, a non-standard unit is something that we can use to measure with that's not a ruler. Okay, so for example, we can use, which I'm going to use today and show you, if I just get them out, we can actually use these things. These are paper clips. Okay, so I could put them side by side together and measure the length of something in the measure of paper clips. Okay, and because this is not something that we'd normally use to measure the length of an object, we tend to use a meter stick or a ruler or a tape measure. Because that's not something what we'd use normally, paper clips, we call this a non-standard measure. Okay, so we could use paper clips. I could also use these, which I know you're familiar with because we've got lots in school. We could use cubes. We can measure the length of something in cubes. It's very important we put them together as well, side by side. Okay, so as you can see here already, Mr. Gardner's used two different resources to measure the length of something, the length of a paper clip and the lengths using cubes. Okay, and you can use anything. You can use stones out your garden if you wish. There's lots of different things that we can use, preferably small things to measure. Okay, that's called a non-standard unit measure. Right. What we need to do today then, so let me get this sheet. This is your sheet that you have today. And it says you're going to use different non-standard units to measure an object of your choice from your house. And you can change the suggested ones if you want. You don't have to use those ones. It's up to you, okay? I've just given you an example. You could use cubes, paper clips or stones, but you don't have to use that if you don't want to. You can use something different if you can find something small enough, okay? The object you could choose could be a remote control, a picture frame, a book, anything that you've got in your house that is fairly flat and that you can measure the length of. Okay, but before you measure, you need to make sure you do an estimate. Okay, and an estimate is an idea that you think how many it will take to measure the length. So, for example, let me tell you first of all what object I'm going to measure. I'm going to choose my remote control for my TV. Okay, that's the object that I'm going to measure. So in that first box here, it says this is the object I will measure, and in it I'm going to write a remote control. Okay, so that tells everybody what I'm measuring today. Okay, and I'm going to just measure that object. That's it. Okay, and let's put that to one side just here. Okay, so that's my remote that I'm going to measure. Okay, just there. So, before we start to actually measure it though, we need to make an estimate. So I'm going to use cubes for my first one. Right, my estimate. How many cubes does Mr. Gardner think it will take to measure the length of my remote control? Now, I'm looking at the size of my remote control, I'm looking at the length of my remote control, and I'm going to suggest that it will take, let's say, 8 cubes. So my estimate will be 8 cubes. That's what I think. Okay? So I'm going to write that down first. Paper clips. My estimate for that. How long is my paper clip? So this is the length of my paper clip here. Right? I'm thinking it's a little bit longer than my cube. So I'm going to say 4. Okay? I think 4 paper clips for that. Okay, and we've got stones as well. Okay, but I'm just going to show you just these two just for this video. Okay, but you can choose 3 different ones. So 8 cubes, 4 paper clips. That's my prediction. That's my estimate. Okay, for the length of my remote control. Right, now we need to find out how we do this. So to do this, I get my cubes, which are here, and I'm going to put them by the side of my remote control. Now, I'm going to start here. Is that correct? No, why not? Why is that not correct? Oh yes, silly me. I always have to start at the very end of the remote control. So if I use my pen, look, there's the end, there's the beginning of my remote control. I need to make sure the cube does not overlap that bit there, else that won't be very fair, will it? So it has to start at the very beginning and end at the very end of the remote, okay? It might be useful if you put a pencil or a pen at either side to help you with that. So if I get another pen and just put that here, I know I can only go in between the two pens here, because that's the length of my remote control, isn't it? Okay, so let's count with it. 1, 2, 3. Remember my prediction, my estimate was 8. 4. An estimate doesn't always have to be correct. It's there or thereabouts. 5, 6. I need some more cubes. 7, 8, and I'm putting them side by side. That's really important too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh look, 9. It's taken me 9 cubes to measure the length of this remote control. Okay, and my estimate was 8. So Mr. Gardner wasn't far away, was he? That's a good estimate. Okay, and within about 1 or 2. So the actual measurement was 9 cubes. Okay, I've got 9 cubes was measuring the length of this remote control. Okay, I can put these away now. Very important, remember, to start at the edge of the remote control. Okay, to make it accurate. That's to the paper clips. Okay, so again, we're right at the edge, not in the middle. We're going to start just there. So 1. You can count with me as I'm doing this. 1, 2, 3. Oh, and actually, look, if I say this here, 4 paper clips is actually too long, isn't it? I'll just move the camera a second. You can see that, look, it's just a little bit too long. It goes over a bit. So, if I put my pen here, it looks about half, doesn't it? Yeah? Half a paper clip. Depends on the size of your paper clips. But for these ones that I've got, it's about 3.5. So in my box here, I'm going to put 3.5. And we write a half like as a fraction, which is what we'll look at a little bit later on in the year. So 3.5 cubes. Is it cubes? No, silly me. Remember, our non-standard unit this time is a paper clip. So not a cube. Remember, because we're looking at different types of non-standard measures. So it took me 3.5 paper clips. And I said 4, so I wasn't far away. I was half a mark off. So that's a good estimate as well, okay? That's to measure the length of my remote control. Okay? Why don't you have a go now, right? Using the sheet that you've got, choose an object from around your house. It doesn't have to be remote control, it can be anything that you wish to measure the length of, okay? I've given you some examples here using cubes, paper clips and stones as a non-standard measure, but you can use anything in your house that you've got that may be small enough to measure. You might have some sweets hanging around, you could measure in sweets. It is up to you, okay? And after that, I want to answer the question, which non-standard measure was the most? And then which one do you think would, which do you think was different with each unit? Why do you think it was different, okay? So, have a great time being investigated today and being a good mathematician, right, to find out all the different lengths of the objects that you find, of the object that you find today. Okay? See you later, everyone.